Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we got our 6th sneak peek for part 2 of Infinity War. This time it is the uniform for Cull Obsidian, and the fact that we're getting Corvus Glaive and Cull Obsidian as the 2 new World Boss Ultimate stages. So I wanted to discuss his uniform. I wanted to also discuss some things about World Boss Ultimate that we can expect, and then I want to dive into the event quest with the event tokens and what I think you should spend them on. So first, let's take a look at World Boss. Right now we only have Proxima Midnight for the Ultimate stage, which gives out the Combat Titan records for Captain America. So presumably Cull Obsidian will give out the Blast books, because Blast is more closely aligned with Black Dwarf, and it kind of makes sense when you think of dodge and you think of speed. That more closely aligns with Corvus, but it could be flip-flopped, it could be switched around, but that is what you'd probably expect, because most energy damage characters that deal a lot of damage to Corvus Black Dwarf or Ebony or Cull Obsidian are Blast type. Doctor Strange, Sharon Rogers, Cable, Scarlet Witch, etc. There's definitely other types, but that's basically the way that it goes. And the dodge ignore is more heavily centered, and dodge is with speed types. So that's what we can expect in terms of the books, the Titan records, to get Spider-Man to tier 3 fighting Corvus Glaive, and then getting Iron Man to tier 3 fighting Black Dwarf or Cull Obsidian. It's kind of annoying switching names, so I'm just going to call him Black Dwarf the way he is in this game, even though he might be getting a name change with his new uniform. Absent from the teasers thus far, however, is EBONY MAW, which also happens to be my world boss for today. Bit confusing considering that we already have had the Corvus Glaive uniform in the game since part 1 over a month ago, so now he's just being added in as the World Boss Ultimate, whereas Black Dwarf is getting both his uniform and the World Boss Ultimate. Hopefully Ebony is also going to get his uniform, and then he'll get his World Boss stage somewhere down the line, and then eventually I'm guessing Thanos will also get his new upgraded look with the new glove and with no helmet, and he'll also be dropping some sort of Titan record, possibly one of all 4 per chance, and then that would leave Ebony for the Universals, and then Supergiant crying in the corner. So that is what we can expect from those stages. As far as the actual stage mechanics go, maybe some of you haven't played World Boss for these stages in a while, so you've kind of forgot. I know I've been playing Proxima for over a month now, but Black Dwarf has been notoriously bad at teleporting randomly during the stage, especially during World Boss Ultimate, and also changing his moveset if you iframe too much. So one of the most notorious problems with this character, with this boss, since he was first introduced to the game 2 years ago, was the fact that if you iframed too much at the beginning of the fight, he would go into his third phase moves, which basically would be an extended charge animation, which would chase you and track you around the field, and then it would be the ground pound, and then he would jump up and come back down. Those moves are incredibly frustrating. They're iframes, they do tremendous amounts of damage, and they bleed your character. So hopefully Netmarble has thought of some new mechanics for Black Dwarf that don't include these kinds of cheesy iframe punishes, and it'll more closely align with something like Proxima. Not necessarily that they're spears, but just that the fight feels difficult yet fair, and Black Dwarf has been notoriously one of the least fair world bosses to fight. So we'll have to see how it changes, but I am curious to see. Additionally, for Corvus, I'm not so worried about the actual boss mechanics in the fight, because I think he has some interesting different moves with bleed. He does do some teleports, but it's kind of suits the character, and he also has those cones that he creates on the ground, the kind of crushed earth that sends out those fire damage lines or kind of pillars. I think that's all really great, and it creates situations where you have to dodge for most of the arena. The problem with Corvus right now is the clones. He has summons that he uses, and at stage 1 of World Boss Ultimate that will be fine, but I'm pretty sure once you get to stage 29 for Proxima, at least, her HP is almost 26 million. It might be actually more than 26 million. So for Corvus to summon clones that have even 50% of his health means that you're gonna have clones that you basically can't kill, and this was kind of the problem with high stages of Corvus Glaive in the old World Boss Ultimate setup. Once you got past phase 3 into phase 4, and I don't even think anyone completed phase 5, the clones have just way too much health, because the boss has way too much health and you can't kill them, and then he actually goes through his entire rotation and he gets back to the clone skill, and he just keeps filling the stages with clones. And it sounds really funny, but you end up crashing your game, or your game ends up lagging so much that you can't actually do enough damage. And fun fact, or unfun fact, the more your game lags, the more frames that you lose. The more frames that you lose, the less damage that you do, because the game is only catching your damage every, let's say, 12 frames instead of every 30 frames. And so, or 12 times in a second instead of 30, and so your damage will drastically reduce. That's why when you play on a low-end device, the game just seems harder because of all that lag reducing your damage. So it will be interesting to see how Netmarble handles his clones, and if they have a percentage of his HP, which would make the later stages extremely frustrating for people who have low-end devices, or if they're going to change it around, maybe have the clones have a set amount of HP no matter what, the Outriders that he summons, but we'll have to wait and see. But those are the two key points that I'm looking forward to, looking to see if they change or if they're altered in some way for these two new world bosses, and kind of the only weaknesses or bad sides to them. Lastly, I do want to discuss the event quest, because we are getting tokens now. The event quest has kind of fixed itself. We have a total of 50 tokens per day. It's very easy to get them, and it was running from 2 days ago, so there's 6 days in total, so that's a total of 300 tokens plus the 80 that we got as a gift. You got it as an admin gift in your inbox. I already collected mine. That's why I'm rocking 180 tokens right now. So in total, with 380 tokens, there's a couple of different things that you can do. I would probably recommend for most players to stay away from the gold. It's actually not that much, and it costs 30 tokens. I know it's tempting to always go for the gold, but I think that the biometrics for both characters are actually really good in terms of their cost and in terms of how much you get. Keep in mind, because you can only purchase 7, you're going to spend almost half of your token, more than half of your tokens, 210, to get the almost 500 bios for either Iron Man or Spider-Man. Now, if you need them for the uniforms or to tier 2 them for some reason, those are great options, but you can also keep those biometrics for tier 3 and for the potential upgrade for future characters. If for example, we're getting potential upgrades for Cull Obsidian and Ebony Maw and maybe Scarlet Witch with this new update, you might need some extra bios, and 500 extra bios is pretty good. It doesn't quite get one character to 70, but it does about 20% of that, because you need 2,400 bios, so it's not a bad start. I know it doesn't sound like a lot when I say it, but that's one option. I personally, if you're curious what my options are going to be, I'm going to be getting the Norn Stones of Chaos fully, so I'm going to be spending 70 tokens there to get as much of this as I can, and then I'm also going to be spending 70 tokens to get the Black Antimatter fully, and then I'm going to spend the remaining tokens that I have probably just getting some bios, or I may be going for the Nornstones Selector. The Nornstone Selector seems like a bit of an odd choice, but in my situation, getting or trying to get Blue Marvel bios from the processor has been a really hellish experience, to say the least. And so I've been spending all of my Nornstones of Omnipotence. So if you take a look at my inventory, and I know no one's going to feel bad for me because I have tens of thousands of all of the other colors, but by comparison, I have less than 2,000 remaining Nornstones of Omnipotence, which is insane. I've blown through more than 20,000 just trying to get Blue Marvel up to tier 2, and he's still not there yet. So any chance I can take to collect some additional Nornstones, I'll do, and they're pretty good in terms of the cost to benefit ratio, you know, because I get basically 120 Nornstones for every 70 biometrics, and so if I can weigh that out, I can probably farm 70 biometrics faster than I can farm 120 specific Nornstones that I want, and I'll end up spending less energy that way. So that's another way you can look at it in terms of the cost in tokens versus how much energy you would spend. Not necessarily on how much you would get, but how much energy it would take to get the same amount. The Dimension Debris for new players is honestly another really good option. 10 tokens for 300 debris is actually really great, and that'll help you gear up a lot of your characters if you're just trying to settle into stage 5 or 10 of Shadowland, or you're trying to get your first world boss kills to kind of get those 5 per day going, to settle into your routine and get those kills. So let me know what you guys think of the teaser for Cull Obsidian and Corvus Glaive. Let me know which one you think is going to drop the Blast books for Iron Man and which one's going to drop the Speed books for Spider-Man. Let me know what you think of Ebony Maw. There's a possibility that he's not going to get a uniform with this update, which would be really weird. But even with the Twitter post, it said, brains and brawn will crush your mind and body. Now, there's no doubt that Corvus is a very smart man, and he is Thanos' head general for a reason. But Ebony Maw is kind of known to be the smart guy, and especially if you've seen Infinity War, he's the one kind of talking and manipulating mentally. So he's definitely pulling the weight in terms of the mind battle, and he duels Doctor Strange in kind of a battle of wits. Whereas, of course, Cull Obsidian or Black Dwarf is the brawn, the muscle. And even when they invade Earth, it's Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian. Corvus goes with his wife, Proxima. So it's a bit strange how they teased Corvus and Proxima together for their uniforms for part 1, but now for part 2 it's Corvus and Black Dwarf, and Ebony's just kind of on the side by himself. So who knows, maybe Ebony's gonna be with Supergiant, or maybe he's just gonna come solo. But let me know what your thoughts are on all of that. Let me know if perhaps I'm worrying a little bit too much about this update that's coming in less than a week now. Can't wait. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. Hit the bell if you don't want to miss any of my content, and of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.